how you happen to go into the Army.
I'll tell you how I happened to go in the Army. I got out of high school, and I went to one day they wouldn't hire me. You're going to go into service pretty soon, we won't hire you. So I went to G. Fox, and the only job I could get there was a busboy in an employee's cafeteria. So I figured, the heck with this, and then I got a letter saying to report to the center, and my buddy across the street, we went and we got separated. We were going to go together. He was here and I was here. And when it came my turn, they put me in another line. So I went in the Army, and he stayed in he went in the Navy, I guess.
Oh.
So that's about it.
So that got you guys in separate branches.
Yeah. Figured it'd separate us.
How old?
Now, yeah, how old were you when you first went into the service?
I don't know. 1924. When did I go in? 44? 20 years old. Maybe.
20 years old. Yep. Okay. Yep. 24 to
You went
44.
in 43. Thank you. 43.
Oh, so you were 19.
Well, probably.
Okay. All right. Also, I want to add that Mr. DiMella's wife is sitting with us. You might hear her once in a while.
Yeah.
And Mrs. DiMella, what's your name, please?
I'm Mary.
Mary DiMella. Okay, thank you. So you didn't really have a choice in which branch you went into.
No.
All right.
Well, we took tests and they sent me there.
Okay. Now, can you tell us a little bit about the boot camp experience?
Well, I went there and then I had a cyst on the end of my spine, which isn't very fat. So I went on sick call
Yeah, wait a minute. This was in
in
Florida.
Miami.
Yeah.
And this doctor looked at me and says, nothing wrong with you. Go back to the service. I went back, and my sergeant says, what's the matter with you? Stupid? He says, you stay in the elevator and work the elevator thing. We would be called hotels, you know. So the next morning, my sergeant put me back at sick call. And this doctor, what's his name? Major Rossi looked at me and he says, why didn't you come in sooner? I said, I came yesterday. So he called the doctor over and he says, did you look at this? He said, yes, there's nothing wrong with it. And this is a sort of a sick thing, sorry. But he said to this doctor, I want you to stand right there. And he lanced that cyst, and the look went all over that doctor. And he said to him, now you go change your clothes and get the hell out of my hospital. He said, you're not fit to be a doctor. Send anybody out like this. You know, and I was in the hospital 3 months for that to heal up. And Captain Rossi, he was special for me.
Like,
you know, and
yeah.
and I had a nurse. He would give us special passes, and we would go to the beach then. But he'd say, rent a cabana, and take your dog tags off because there's civilians there. And if you have your dog tags on, the Air Force and MBs are going to stop you. But just take them off, and you can go all day long. Nobody's going to bother you. So that's what we did. We'd go there. He said, I think the salt water would be good for you. So we went swimming maybe twice a week, 3 times a week. You know, and my nurse was a special nurse because if she was tired, she'd come and lay on my bed. You know.
Aren't you lucky?
Yes. And sometimes we were on the 7th floor, and I could hear the elevator coming at nighttime. So I'd say, quick, get up, the elevator's coming. Officer of the day. She'd hop out of bed, you know, and she'd be straightening her dress up. And they'd come in and say, what's the matter? You're all wrinkled up. She says, I got a patient that's been giving me a hard time all day. You know? So they come in and say, will you behave yourself and leave the nurses alone? You're always in trouble. But we had a good time.
So can you tell us a little about your training experiences? And you mentioned a few different schools that you attended.
Yeah, we went from there. I was in the hospital for 3 months.
In Florida, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And by the time I got out of the hospital, there was no more Air Force training. It was all officers. So I couldn't we would go on the beach. We were about 8 or 9 of us, like the same predicament. We'd go on the beach and the MPs would chase us along. You know, this is private. This is for the officers' training. So we would go
I see.
there. Then we'd get a special pass. Dr. Rothside, Major Rothside, he would give us a special pass to go to Miami to see a movie. You know, I remember one time we got stopped, and it was 3 officers coming towards us, and she saluted, and I saluted, and then he stopped us. They said, "Why are you walking with the lieutenant? You're a private." And so she took out her ticket. I'm to keep him in my sight all times. So they said, "Oh, excuse us." Yeah. So that's what happened. Well, I had a good time there. I enjoyed it. We used to do some stupid thing. You know, paper airplanes?
Yeah.
Well, there was 4 of us in our room. 3 of us in this room. And we were making paper airplanes and shooting them out the window. And then we got the old life magazines. We got a double page, make a huge airplane out the window. Pretty soon the MPs, I was the only one that dressed that could go outside. I had to go out in the yard and pick up every damn airplane, paper airplane. Man, I never did that again. Yeah. But we did silly things, you know. Had a good time, you might say. Enjoyed it anyway. We used to go to town. And it used to be Old Town and New Town in Las Vegas.
He did ask you about your schooling. Did you?
Well, we went to school where
Where did you start off?
we started off in Gulfport, with school Gulfport, Mississippi,
Okay.
mechanics school. And the instructor, I got some friends that still call me that Douglas Private Dilemma. And they're always asking questions, but I always knew the answer. You know, and the other guys wouldn't know what the heck I was talking about. So, I guess so they called me Private Dilemma. And had a good time.
Is that because you were hard to understand or something, or?
No, I knew more than the other kids did. Yeah, because I'd worked with my grandfather on sawmill and stuff like that.
Oh, I see.
So I knew all mechanical part of everything. So we would do that. And what was I going to say?
Did you say it was awful warm there?
Well, it was hot. Yeah, it was very hot. In Miami Beach or Miami, Gulfport. It was very hot there. In fact, we'd go to town at night, especially on a Saturday night. This got nothing to do with the Army, but we'd have to ride a school bus back to camp. So you get on a bus, there'd be no seats. So I'd pick out a pretty whack. You know, I'd say, "If you give me the seat, you can sit on my lap." So this one said, "All right." So she's sitting on my lap, and it's perfectly dark, and we're going back to camp. We're about 10 miles. Pretty soon she hollered. She goes, "Now you stop that." Well, the bus stopped. They were all going to throw me off. She said, "That's all right. I got them under control now."
Oh.
They were going to throw me off. So anyway, we went back to camp that way. And it was more than once she rode on my lap. You know, we wait till the end of the last the bus is going back.
You didn't remember her name by any chance?
No. Well, we enjoyed ourselves. And my captain was a good man. I remember one time we went, Hank, my buddy, we went to the movies, the camp movies, theater. So we were working, we weren't very busy, so the bus came by. Anybody going to the movies? So Hank and I jumped in the bus, went to the movies. About 10 minutes later, tap on the shoulder. DiMella, my Jeep is outside, get back to camp. He said, "I'll send somebody come after me."
Busted, huh?
He was the captain.
He was our captain at the time.
So he was a pretty good guy, I guess.
And he would,
Oh, so you didn't get in trouble?
no,
Oh.
just had to take his Jeep back to the camp. And he would call up and have somebody come and get him. Yeah, he was a good guy. He's the one that, one time I was in an argument with a lieutenant over a leaky gas tank.
Huh.
And the lieutenant says, "Sign it, that's all right." And he says, "DiMella, if he says it's okay, make him put his name on it." don't you put your name on it. Then he said to the lieutenant, if he's inspecting it, you mind your own business. And he said, after this, I want you down on a wash rack because you're not much of a mechanic. Gasoline tank leaking.
Yeah.
And he said, oh, that's not a bad leak. Well, you don't want a gas tank leaking in the wing.
No
There
way.
were 3 in each wing. So a couple of days later, he says, go up to hangar 3. And he had the wing off, and they were putting 3 new tanks in that wing. You know, so.
Well, that reminds me. Could you please tell us what kinds of aircraft you were trained to work on and what your work entailed?
Whatever it was. I don't know. What's it? C something. Cargo plane.
C-47?
No. Bigger than that. C-46, C-68.
46.
I don't know. I got pictures of it somewhere.
So your job was basically as an aircraft mechanic.
Yes.
You were responsible for what now?
Wait.
Exactly.
Well, you used to check everything. And you had to sign your name and it was okay, you know. And then somebody else would come over at office or check. Or they took it to another repair hangar for something bad. And you were responsible for where you signed your name.
Okay.
You know.
Yep.
This is, excuse me, I gotta go shut the window.
Yep. We had a
This
little
is
brainstorm.
interesting because it does tell what he was doing, you know.
Okay, maybe I could read this for the record. Airplane and engine mechanic. Served with the 1503rd Army Air Force Base Unit in various camps in the United States. Examined, replaced, tested, repaired, and maintained various types of airplanes and their engines. Assisted in the disassembling, overhauling, and reassembling of engine airplanes. Made 50, 75, and 100-hour inspections. Checked equipment before and after flights.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, we did a lot of work. Had a good captain though, you know.
Now, how many guys were in your crew that worked together?
Oh, probably on a shift that I worked on, probably 10, 12 people, you know, but I only worked on one part.
Yeah.
I didn't do much work on the engines unless they had problems. Then they would call me. I remember one time, sometimes a spark plug would break off. They were trying to, and he couldn't get it out. That means they had to change the whole cylinder, you know.
Oh, yeah.
So I fixed a spare spark plug with an air hose on it. You turn the engine till the piston was up to the top. Then if you saw it away at the broken one, inside it, the filings would blow out, you know. And we would clean it out and rethread it and put a new plug in, and it always seemed to work. You know, so didn't have to change the whole cylinder. We just changed one spark plug.
I see.
So we did a lot of things like that.
Do you have any memories of the guys in your crew?
Oh yeah. So I had some pictures somewhere. One guy, Hank, he was quite a bit older. We used to call him the old man because he was married and had children. But we used to go to this girl's house. She worked in the office at the air base, and she was a Hawaiian girl. And we would meet at the bar and get a 6-pack or 2 6-packs of beer, and then go to her house and party all night. Yeah. And she would put on her hula skirt and get to have her, because she was from Hawaii, and she
Okay.
was quite a bit older than we were. But she would do the hula, you know, and we did a lot of work. Then in the morning we would clean up the yard for her and rake and trim bushes. And then one night, this got nothing to do with the Army, but we were going home, walking to her house, and there was a woman sitting on a curbstone, and she obviously had been drunk, but her knees were bleeding like the devil. So what happened? I tripped over the curbstone and fell in the road. So we didn't know where she was. So Veda was the woman. Oh, she lives in that house because I see her coming out every morning to get on the bus. So we took this woman, went in the house, went upstairs, found the empty bedroom, put her in bed, Pull her stockings on, shoes off, and everything. And then Hank, what if it's the wrong house? We ran downstairs like mad, but we never heard any more about it. It was the right house anyway. But we used to do crazy things like that.
Did you have plenty of supplies to do your job with? Plenty of
Oh, well,
parts?
sometimes we would cheat, you know. If you needed a special tool, you had to sign your name and your serial number. But when we got to Hank and Klaus and three of us, we used to change the landing gear. And I would take the other crews maybe 2 days. And we got so we could do it like 10 hours. And we would go to another hangar and we would check out a special tool with a fake name and serial number. So they couldn't chase us back. And then we brought him to our hangar. Then we had a special suitcase, all padlocked, you know. And our captain says, "That's all right. If they don't know where their tools are going, that's their problem." And we would have to change our landing gear, the whole landing gear, you know, everything. Sometimes we would do it maybe 10 hours, more than a shift, you know. And we would do that and hide our tools again. But he was a good captain, you know. Like one time, I had a couple warts. I went on sick call. And this was like 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night. So the nurse looked and she says, "Oh, Douglas, that's terrible." So she had an electric needle. She burned all these warts. And she wrapped my hand up, put my arm in a sling. She said, "They don't have to know what we did." And she sent me back and they said, "You can't work like that." I said, "That's what the nurse told me." He said, "Well, you take the rest of the night off." Well, our night shift was from 8 at night to 8 in the morning. So I had the whole night off. And I got his pictures of E.K. Jones, he was an old Texas cowboy. He was about this big around and about hit the ceiling here. He'd never been married, but he was a tough old man. And he had part of his fingers gone in this hand. Got caught in the rope with the steer. So we used to tell the young guy, "Be careful, EK, because he got his hand shot off over in Africa. And he has no sympathy for kids." So we go back to the bed, our barracks, and he say, "Douglas, you got to mop under your bed." I said, "I'm not going to mop under my bed. Let him give me detention or something. I'm not going anywhere anyway." Next thing I know, I'd be almost asleep, and I hear he'd be mopping under my bed, cleaning all up. He was a pretty good old fella.
Old fella, he was.
What?
Old fella, he probably was all 20-something.
Oh no, he was in his 40s, 50s.
Really?
He was an old man, really. He looked like an old man. E.K. Jones. He was an old, retired cowboy.
Did you tell him about gambling?
He used to gamble.
Yeah.
He would never play cards with us. He said, "I know every card. I'm going to take your money." But he would go to town one day a week, and he'd come back with his wallet about that thick. He said, "Now I got to put it in the bank and send it home." I said, "So who?" He said, "I don't know, bro. I'll be there when I get back." And he could remember every card played. You know, if somebody was dealing it, he knew every card that was being played.
But he wouldn't gamble with you.
No, he would never play with us. He said, "I don't want to take your money." He said, "When I want money, I go to town and play them. They think they know everything."
So he'd bet against civilians.
Yeah.
Oh,
Or against the club, like
the club officers.
well, I can't think of the names of them. They were pretty good, you know, nightclubs there. And gambling houses and whatnot.
Do you recall any particular entertainment? I know you mentioned the movies, but were there any USO shows of any sort for you guys?
No, we didn't have many of that because, first of all, we worked from 8 o'clock to 8 in the morning. So it was hard to go to a movie or a show unless we sneaked off or we told somebody we were going to go. And no, we never went to USO shows, but we would go to one particular bar all the time. I can't even see the name of it now. And they finally got a pool table. We'd play pool and stuff like that. But, it was pretty good. Could have been worse, you know. Well, old E.K. Jones, he was a tough old man, but man, he made sure I didn't get any trouble. He would mop under my bed every morning or every night, you know.
Took care of you, huh?
So why was it that you worked in the nighttime hours instead of daytime?
Well, it just depends on what shift they gave me.
Oh, okay.
See,
But they had 3 shifts a day or something, or 2 shifts a day?
No, it would be two, like
Two
8
12-hour
eight
ones?
at night till 8 in the morning, and the morning shift was 8 in the morning till 8 at night.
Wow.
So we repaired every airplane on the base. You know, that's why I say I hear the airplane go by even now late at night. It always sounds so good to me.
Yeah.
Because they used to be flying all night long over our heads. You know. And the reason they were in Reno, because they were getting ready to go to, where is it?
China, Burma?
What?
China, Burma?
Yeah, CBI.
Go over the hump.
You had to fly over the hump. And to get out of Reno Air Base, you had to go up a hill, up over the mountain. There was one pass over, one place they could get out without a mountain. And the only time they used it was really emergency. And then one time a B-17 or something came in and ran out of gas. So they kept it there about 4 days till the weather was just right, and then they shot it out that pass, you know.
Okay.
It was 3 miles out to the gatehouse, and it was about 50 feet off the ground then.
Wow. Wow.
But we had a good time.
So what were the what was the worst repair job you ever had to do? Or most difficult or challenging?
Well, we had to change the whole landing gear. Jack the plane up to all the hydraulics, everything out, the whole landing gear. And it took quite a while, you know. And we had special tools that we scrounged from other people. So it'd take us maybe 10 hours to do it. See, in some of the other shifts, if they had to do it, they would be 8 hours or better, 12 hours, and somebody'd have to finish it the next shift. They
Right.
would never do it. But
Hmm.
we had all these special tools. You know. We had a good time. We knew what we were doing, and we worked together, and that's it.
Now, were you an experienced mechanic before?
No, but I worked with mechanics, sort of. My grandfather had a sawmill. And I helped run the sawmill all my life. And, you know, so I knew how to put things together, how to drill holes and everything. So it was no problem for me. But we had a good time.
He had a grandfather who was probably a genius, you know, that he was very, very smart. And he was, Grandpa Ryan was a surveyor, right?
Yeah, he was
And what
fair.
else? He
He
had
was an engineer.
engineer
You know, you've heard of Russell Company?
in Middletown.
He built the powerhouse, the steam plant. He supplied steam for all those buildings. It was now Stop and Shop and all that. All those Russell Company. And he built the power plant to supply steam for every one of them. So I knew about it,
And he was always with them, you know, so he learned. There wasn't anything he couldn't do.
but we had a good time there.
He keeps saying that. I said, you keep saying you had a good time. I think you were a bit wistful.
I enjoyed it.
Remembering back.
So tell us about well, you told us about Gulfport a little bit. Can you tell us about Buffalo, New York, or Santa Monica?
Well, there we were going to school, and my aunt and uncle lived in Buffalo. But then my mother went out to see me. So my uncle, knew everything. He's going to take my mother to see me. So where does he go? Down to the harbor. It's full of sailors, most of them drunk. He says, here's where he hangs out. I've never been in the place. And we used to hang out, my buddies and I. They had a place on Main Street, a glass bar. It was like a big oval bar made out of glass blocks. That's where we used to hang out.
Didn't you say that in Buffalo it was very cold?
It what?
Was very cold.
Oh yeah, we lived in a tent. Where, you know, there was 8 of us in a tent on the edge of the
In Buffalo, New York.
Oh, gee.
yeah, on the edge of the factory there, where they made the airplanes. What was the
I
factory?
don't know, Douglas, whatever it did.
Anyways, I forgot.
Mhm.
But
But didn't
So
you
how did you get through the winter then?
we had a wood stove in the middle of the camp, and we had to put wood in it all the time to keep the tent warm. It was just sleeping in our pajamas, not pajamas, sleep in our clothes. Or you put your clothes out, they had clean clothes, put them on top of it, and a blanket on top of that.
Hmm.
No, it wasn't bad.
How many men were sharing a tent?
8,
Eight men.
Yeah. 4 and 4, yeah. So it was pretty good.
And did they feed you pretty well or no?
Yeah, we ate. We didn't have any problem with food. In fact, no, not there, but down in New Mexico, I was down there, and in my Foot Locker, I had a special area marked off about this big, and I had a pet. What do you call it?
Iguana?
What?
Iguana?
No.
Iguana?
No,
There's all
a little, like, sort of like the guys that run around here, and I feed them sometimes.
Chipmunks?
Sort of like
Squirrels?
that, yeah. Little chipmunks or a ground squirrel, something. They were about this big. So I got one of the things with a spinning wheel, and he'd run in there, and I'd bring home food from the cafeteria from lunch for him to eat, and I'd let him out, and he'd run around the barracks and come right back into
Is that
my
right?
Foot Locker. Yeah.
So did he have a name?
I don't remember. But I used to do things like that. Probably crazy, but it was a change of pace, you know.
Sure.
And
Well, just think how young these people, these
What?
men were, you know, what they went. So,
so, anyways,
Well, was there? Do you recall staying in touch with your family while you were away?
no, I never wrote to my mother for months. She thought I was dead. You know, I didn't want to call her and tell her I had a serious operation. I was in the hospital for 3 months.
Yeah.
You know, so I just didn't. I didn't call her. And finally, one of the nurses said, "Doug, you gotta call your mom." So I don't know. I sent her a letter or something, and then she went to Buffalo because my aunt and uncle lived in Buffalo. So she went out there where her sister was and stayed with them for a few days. And I had some good times in New York. Well, one night I went to I got an overnight pass. Was that New York? Yeah. I don't remember now where it was. Anyways, I went there and we were drinking whiskey, myself and some civilian kids and whatnot. And then at midnight, I forget what it was, they all had candles. And they marched up the hill, single file up to this big church at the top of the hill. And it was a most beautiful sight. You know, everybody had a candle and footsteps, right, all the way up, wind up the mountain. It was really something worth seeing. I just assumed they drunk and go back and see it. I don't know if they do it anymore, but it was good. It was very interesting. And, I had a lot of good time. I went to.
excuse me, dear. I'm sorry.
They used to have a carnival, a circus, 1/10 circus, you know. So this is in Old Town, Nevada, or Old Town. What was the name of the town? I forgot. Old Town was all Mexicans, and they had a circus came to town, a one-ring circus, and so I went with a little kid. You know, I knew him from the town. So they would be talking in Spanish, and they'd be laughing, and he'd tell me in English. Then I'd be laughing, everybody else was waiting for the next joke, you know. But I had a good time with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They, They were not treated very well, though. Didn't you say that?
Oh,
The Mexicans or Indians, I guess it was.
well, they were treated all right in Old Town, but not in New Town. There was Old Town and New Town. We used to go to Old Town, and then they tried to put it off limits, but we used to go anyway. You know? And they used to have to drive with a horse and wagon on the side of the road. Like here was the road, and then they had paths on either side, you know, for the horse and wagon. They didn't have automobiles. But this little Mexican kid, he explained everything to me as they were laughing, you know. So you know, I knew a lot of people there. But I talked to them sometimes again.
There's something that from Harry Truman,
From who?
President Truman.
Oh, you got a letter
For what?
from Harry
For
Truman.
did I
your
do
service, for your service.
Oh, I don't know.
Even though all you were doing was having a good time.
Yeah.
Well, if I could make a record of these, it'd be nice to have, and we'll certainly give them back to you. You have a certificate of appreciation for war service. You have a United States Army Technical Training Command certificate for airplane mechanics, a diploma, May 26th, 26th day of February, 1944. Signed by G. DeFriest Larner, Colonel, Air Corps, commanding officer.
I had the little cards. I don't know where they are now, but I thought they were in that basket. I think it was there, like cards that showed you could buy a certain amount of gasoline, you know, or cigarettes and things like that. They were rationed, you know, but I could buy cigarettes. So if you were in service, you could buy a pack of cigarettes, no problem.
Imagine that, cigarettes. That's what he started when he started, probably smoking.
Yeah. And I would get a pack of cigarettes, and you could, you know, swap them with somebody for something else, or sell them. You should buy a pack of cigarettes, you could sell it for $1.
Now, when the war came to an end, do you remember where you were, what you were doing, and circumstances when the war ended?
Yeah, I was in Reno, and then they sent me to
Santa Monica?
Santa Monica, yeah, the air base there, because they were flying back and forth like the hospital planes. They would go over there. I forget which islands they would stop at, and then stop in Japan or China and pick up wounded people. They had like hospital planes, maybe 2 or 3 high bunks in them, and a nurse and a doctor in each one. And some guys went, and I said, I don't know if I want to work with them. You know what I mean? It's too sad.
Yeah.
But some people went, and they would stay there 2 days and come back with another plane. You know.
Yep.
But anyways, things happen.
So you were in Santa Monica when the war ended. Where were you when your service ended in February 1946? Do you know where you were then?
February. I was probably in Reno. I guess.
Oh, it said they're given that separation center, Fort Devens, Mass.
Well, that's where they sent me there.
Oh, okay.
I never could figure out why they did that. Because I had some friends that got separated out there and drove home, got a car and drove home. They give them so much mileage from there to home. And one friend of mine, he was in Alaska, and he had a pickup up there. And when he got out of the Army, he drove from Alaska down through Canada and across the country.
No kidding.
And he had a pickup, and he had block and tackle. He had everything he needed in there if he ever got stuck in the snow.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and for some reason they wouldn't let us. They wouldn't let us. Some of us drive home
So they flew you home, or took you on a train?
on a train.
Okay. And you then ended up at Fort Devens, Massachusetts.
Yeah,
And how long were you there?
only a day enough to get new clothes and send us home.
They
You
just
got new clothes?
What?
What kind of clothes did you get?
Army
Civilian
uniform.
clothes?
What?
Oh, civilian, not a civilian.
No, I got a different jacket. You know the jacket I got upstairs? They got about 10 different numbers stamped in it. You know, other people had it and things like that.
Well,
Then I had a nice jacket. It was, I got it in a bag of rags at the air base for me. And I kept it. I used to wear it. I got in trouble. It was like a maroon jacket. And it said, UMDA or something. United States Medicals. So anyway, I used to wear that. And sergeant called me. He said, "Why do you wear that?" I said, "Because, see what it says? Many die, you shall also." He said, "You're not supposed to be wearing that." So I sent that home. It was a nice jacket, really. You know, came right here.
Oh, okay. So then, once you got out of Fort Devens, what happened next?
I came home, and then they called me from Windsor Locks.
What was the name of that company? You would know it, but we can't think of it. It's a big company was involved in planes up in Windsor Locks. You would know.
Sikorsky?
Try again.
I don't know. But they were converting Army planes to civilian use, like the cargo planes and things like that.
I see.
Well, anyway, you could have had a job there.
I could have got a very good job there because I knew everything about that airplane.
Sure.
You know,
And
from
guess
one end to
what?
the other.
Who did you go to work for?
My uncle.
Probably the worst thing you ever did.
The worst thing I ever did.
Why is that?
And don't get involved with family members.
For work, yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes I would go, once in a while I'd go to a meeting. Like a new company would come in and they would have, you know, luncheon or supper or something. And they'd sit around and have a drink or two. I could never buy anybody a drink. I didn't have any money. Then I found out the Peterson Oil Company, they had a fund. Each guy that went there, like salesman, they had $150. They took, the company gave for you can treat your friends and, you know, spread a little goodwill around.
I see.
But I couldn't afford that.
Yeah.
So we'd go.
So what kind of work did you then do for your uncle?
Airplane mechanics, oil burners, furnaces, hot air, refrigeration, you know, air conditioning, stuff like that.
See.
And he was, I don't know why it was ever so stupid. Everybody kept saying, "He's going to take care of you. He's your uncle." Yeah. Baloney. Don't believe in uncles.
Yeah, it used to say, you know, you do this, you're going to get the business. You'll have the business someday. Well, he gave him the business. He sold it to somebody else.
Oh, gee.
Yeah, it wasn't not a very good feeling, I'm afraid, for them.
So did you get any other training or education with a GI Bill by any chance?
No, he just went to work for his uncle.
I went to work there. I knew all about oil burners, and I had another uncle that worked the oil burners. So I went there one day. I had a problem with an oil burner. You know, they were a special oil burner. I said, "What's the problem?" He says, "Don't ask me, ask your uncle. He knows everything. I'm not telling you anything." So I never did find out. Then it dawned on me, I knew one of the customers had folders that came with the oil burner, the furnace. So I went to the house and they weren't home, but the kid was home. I said, "I got to borrow this paper." I left it there. So I had all the instructions on how to adjust that oil burner. So.
Well, he did. He worked in oil burners for a long time, and I think he hated it. A lot of it. A lot of the time, he hated it.
Well.
But he had a good reputation
about 2
In
o'clock in the
town.
morning. You know,
Everybody said Doug knows what he's doing.
I'd go to if I went to a strange place, you know, and I wouldn't know the number or anything, I'd ride up and down the street where I know what, and if I see lights in the solar window, then they must have trouble, I'd stop there. And usually that was right. They were down solar trying to fix it themselves. And then I had another customer, I had an awful time with his dog. The dog wouldn't let me in the house. I got mad at the dog, I poked him, and I finally got him out of the way so I could open the door and get in the house. And pretty soon the owner came out and he said, "What the hell are you doing here?" I said, "You said you had no heat." He said, "I didn't, my brother did." They were twin brothers, that was in the wrong house.
Oh no!
Yeah. Yeah. So,
Well, Douglas, I wonder if your military experience influenced your thinking about war or about the military in general.
well, there was a lot of good parts in it, and some terrible parts, like in the camps over in
Germany?
Germany, you know, death camps for Jews and whatnot. They were terrible. In fact, I know a woman, she's younger than I am. But, you know, it's people, some Germans are still that way. And she came from a very nice family in Middletown, and I knew her for quite a few years. And her face was terrible, scarred and everything. And what happened, a German fellow came one night. She was on the street, she was a little kid at that time, maybe 12 years old. He threw a bottle of acid. He says, "There you Joe, that's good for you." He put a bottle of acid in her face. So she was scarred for the rest of her life. But they never did anything to him. That was more or less his religion. You know.
That was Nazi Germany. No.
What?
That was Nazi Germany.
No. Yeah. Yeah, it was some terrible things in the war.
So, do you ever go to any reunions of any kind related to your war experience?
No, I don't.
No, he never did. No. He's never been a joiner or anything like that.
Yeah.
Did you tell him about the time you wanted to fly somewhere and they kept you on the plane flying all night?
Oh yeah, they were.
I kind of forgotten what that was.
I had overnight a 3-day pass from Reno down to I don't know, San Francisco or someplace. They said, "Oh, we'll drop you off there and pick you up tomorrow." Sure. But they forgot to drop me off. Flew from Reno all around, went over the city, back to Reno, all night long, circled around.
Why?
You never got there.
Never got there.
Why did they circle around? Why didn't they land?
They were just teasing me.
Oh.
You know, these are my friends flying the airplane.
Oh, so that was their idea of a joke.
Yeah,
I see. see.
Kept him up in the plane all the time.
all night I was in that airplane.
Well, I think we're about to finish soon.
Okay.
And is there anything else you'd like to add that we haven't covered in this interview, Douglas?
I can't think of. There were so many things I did and didn't do, but yeah, I sort of enjoyed being in the Army. You know. I remember one time
always talks well.
We were on KP, like, so we were on the back porch of the mess hall. And I don't know, we were peeling, but we were doing something. And a whack came by in a Jeep. He said, "Hey, how about a drink?" I said, "Okay." So I reached in a case and took out a quart of chocolate soda and gave it to her. She said, "Okay." She said, "I'll tell the girls." Well, the OD came out. He saw me. He was going to have me court-martialed for stealing chocolate milk. So luckily, the cook knew me. the cook come out, the chief, or cook of the mess hall. He says, we have a standing invitation. Anytime she comes by, we give her a quart of milk, and she takes it back and shares it with the other girls in the motor pool. So I got off that hook.
Oh.
You know, but we used to do that. What the heck? A quart of milk. It's 10 cases of milk piled this high. You take 1 quart out, it's going to make the army broke.
You know, Doug was always very handy. He built this house. There wasn't a thing that he couldn't do, fix, you know. We, and when we were young and married, we never had to hire someone to come in and do the plumbing or do the carpenter work or to fix this or fix that. He always fixed everything. And he made the house. He built the house, you know.
Built this house?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't, as I said, there wasn't a thing he couldn't do. Fix.
Yeah. Like the panels in the living room, I don't know if you went in there. They're high, you know. Each panel is 1 board I cut. And so what I had done, I went up to Servants Village, and they knew me up there. I went so often, so I could go in the back parts of things and see how things were put together. So I guess when Jim was beginning to talk, we went up there. He got all excited. Look, they copied our living room. You know? But he was afraid one night. He was crying. I said, "What's the matter with you?" He says, "That it's like lightning." I said, "So?" He says, "David, their older brother, said those are witches."
Oh.
I said, "They're not witches flying." "Yes, they are." I said, "Jimmy, you know, every board put in this house." And we had a carpenter, old farmer carpenter, helped us. He says, "Roy put some boards in when we were home." Are you worried about that? But when we first moved in here, he couldn't reach the sink. You had to stand on a stool to turn the faucet on.
Doug has had a lot of medical issues. He's had 3 separate bypass operations, you know, for heart.
Yeah.
And heart stopped in one of them, but they revived him, you know. And that was how long? And he's had a couple of heart attacks. He's had a lot of medical problems, but as most elderly people say today, hanging in there.
Well, you know, I used to tell people, the Lord and I had a promise. I never went to church, and I didn't believe much in him, but I said, if there's no heat in one of your houses, I'll go fix the furnace, you know. So I went to more churches, just fixed the furnace and got heat in that place, and stuff like that.
Well, that had to count for something.
Yeah.
It was interesting, you know, because he was with, actually it was Ryan Oil, and who was his uncle. And he did a lot of work in town. He had keys to more houses in town.
Yeah.
You don't do
Almost
that
any house I
today.
want in town.
No, you don't.
I mean, there was a confidence there that,
Things have changed.
yes,
You can't blame them, but
things are different
A
today.
lot of changes, a lot of differences.
yeah.
Well, thank you both very much for your time.
Okay.